Hi there, this is John Bishop, and I'm with my very, very good friend, Dr. Nancy Flournoy and Virginia. Thank you, Virginia, for joining us today. Just like to briefly, before we start Nancy's webinar, I'd like to say that now that it's been, let's see, almost 3 years, right, Nancy? Since Nancy and I started to work together, and in the very beginning, I was very impressed with her presentations, and I thought, oh my gosh, I just kept thinking, wow, what people are missing, you know. So Nancy comes from a great background. I'll let her go into her background a little bit before we start. But yeah, everybody, you're in for a treat today. We're going to be talking about the glutathione patch, that was invented by David Schmidt in LifeWave. Take it away, Nancy.
Okay, let me see if I can get this blown up. Okay, can you see the slide? Or do you see more than one thing?
Not yet.
It keeps doing this to me. Wait a second. Let me unplug this other screen. That seems to have confused it here. So how's this? You see it now?
Not yet.
You're kidding me. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on, I'm just asleep at the wheel here today. I knew there was something. Okay, now let's get started. Now,
Perfect.
Hopefully you can see the screen. So yes, I'm Dr. Nancy Flournoy. I'm not going to say a lot about myself, except I have a long history of doing clinical research. I'm a biomathematician by training. You can find details about me in Google Scholar or ResearchGate, or I have a Wikipedia page. So I will just get right into talking about the glutathione patch. I have been really had a great time doing this series on the LifeWave patches because one, they're so remarkable, and two, it's been this great opportunity for me to delve into a lot of biology and biophysics and biochemistry that's evolved since I looked at things this way, or since I was in school. So I have given a couple of talks in this series, but this talk and the next two are on patches that are called YH patches. And that's why it's spelled Y-H, but I'm kind of slow. It took me a long time to get the fact that Y was YHY, like YH. So glutathione will be tonight. I'm talking the first and third Fridays of each month. So the next one in a couple of weeks will be on carnosine, which is also a great, great molecule. And then finished with Eon, because these other two, as you can see, name chemicals, and the Eon patch does not. So it's got some special treats available to us. So what I show you on this page is what is the little, they call it a sleeve that the patches come in. On the left here, the gold and white envelope, and a little picture of the patches, which shows you here, these are centimeters, shows you that it's just like a little band-aid you put on your skin. And then on the text here is what the company has permission from the regulatory agencies to actually put on their label. So the body's master antioxidant is glutathione, and we're going to learn more about that. This patch has been shown to support the immune system and improve overall health. So that's so we're going to learn a lot more. First, let me just comment on properties of all the patches. That is, they are patented proprietary form of phototherapy, and they're actually crystal that forms a targeted passive wireless nanotechnology with nano antenna. So those are a lot of great words, but the a strong reason to look carefully at them, given that they work as advertised, is that they have no drugs, chemicals, or stimulants. So nothing enters your body besides the light that's being reflected. And to say another couple of words about that, oops, I went backwards. Again, more with the patches in general, the patches are designed to influence specific photoreceptors in your body. And so the crystal will take the light in and then reflect certain wavelengths back. And these wavelengths are designed to do specific things. And that is particularly to increase particular products in your body. And on the right here, I have a picture of David Smith, the founder of LifeWave. And if I just mention David during this talk, this is who I'm referring to. And with respect to, oops, looks like I got the wrong, the phototonic aim of the carnosine patch is to increase the production of carnosine. And of course, that's true. But today we're talking about glutathione. So I had intended that to be the phototonic aim of the glutathione patch is to increase the production of glutathione. So with that, we're going to talk first about what glutathione does in our bodies, and then we'll talk about what is actually known about the glutathione patch. So the first thing is that glutathione decreases with age. We start looking at these different molecules that are important to our health, and we find out that really a lot, if not all of them, decrease with age. And that isn't good for these things that are necessary for our health. This particular graph is plasma levels from ages 25 to 60. So high glutathione levels are associated with longevity. I mean, if the glutathione decreased, but it wasn't really doing anything in the first place, we wouldn't care. But there have been like over 90,000 studies that are published using glutathione. So it's been a very popular molecule with respect to clinical research. And the studies cover Parkinson's disease, cardiovascular damage, cancer treatment prevention, autoimmune diseases, autism and related disorders. And so we could go through the medical literature and give a talk or a week or a year's lectures on all of the clinical research that has been done with respect to specific issues. But we're going to be looking a little more from a biological point of view. And before we get into that, I'll just give you a few of the high-level claims that are made about glutathione from all these studies that are done. So it's been shown to increase energy, slow down the aging process, reduce muscle and joint discomfort, strengthen the immune system, detoxify the liver and cells, improve mental focus and clarity, improves quality of sleep, reduces the effects of stress, improves the skin and athletic performance and recovery. So it's interesting to note that you just can't go without glutathione. If you go 24 hours without eating, then your liver starts stealing the amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. And so your liver starts stealing them out from your muscles in order to make enough glutathione so that you don't go without. Now, we'll be talking about the LifeWave phototherapy patch, and I'm going to talk probably just in the next slide about In general, it's not easy to absorb supplements. You can buy glutathione, take the pills, but that's not so great. I should say that with respect to antioxidants, the alpha lipoic acid and whey protein do appear to, taking those orally, do appear to increase your levels of, and here this is GSH. That's an abbreviation that's used for glutathione, and it's a little bit of just a mind game that somebody made up, I think, because you know, it's hard to see where GSH comes in the glutathione word, but you'll see here in a minute that the S stands for sulfur. So just glutathione, if you have starting with the raw chemicals, glutathione is produced in your liver and also in the neurons in your central nervous system. So those are kind of two interesting places to be manufacturing this molecule. And as I said, research suggests that it's not orally bioactive and that you really get very little from tablets or capsules. When your body has plenty of it, so you're not in a depleted state, then most of it will be found in your lung, your liver, and your brain. Now, here is the molecule, picture of the molecule here on the right, or parts of the molecule. One reason that it's hard to get anything of value out of taking the molecule orally is that it is a big molecule. And it's just, your body's going to digest it instead of just using it. So the three building blocks that make up this molecule are the amino acids glutamine, which happens to be the most abundant one in your body. It's in, you know, common in virtually everybody's diet, so you don't need to worry about having that. Glycine is the simplest constructed amino acid. And then the cysteine has sulfur in it. So here's the little chemical schematic of the glutathione, which again is abbreviated GSH. And so we have these three molecules, the amino acids that are linked together. And if you remember, or if you've missed my earlier talks, when you look at these, this is your little chemistry lesson, when you look at these little schematics of molecules that are in our body, you know, we basically are made up of a long chain of carbons that are hooked together and then things hanging off of them. And so in this chain, every time there's a little bend in the line going along, that's a carbon atom. And then you have these little oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen hanging off of it. And this S stands for, again, the sulfur. So in terms of getting them in your food, the glycine you get if you're going to chew on bones or tough connective tissues, and gelatin. You know, at my age, my mother and lots of other mothers used to make Jell-O from gelatin, because it was recognized that it was very important to get that into our bodies. Beans, lots of different beans. You can read the list here. Cysteine is abundant in protein-rich foods, and so if you are a vegan, you need to make sure that you're getting plenty of protein. It's not a problem for meat eaters. And then the glutamatic acid, or the glutamine, is the most abundant one available, and we don't worry about that. So, but you have to have all these things if you're going to make it in your body. You have to even, I mean, the LifeWave patch will tell your body to make glutathione, but it still has to have these components to make it out of. Whoops, here we go. So we're going to talk about, we're going to mainly focus on glutathione as an antioxidant because it is known as the body's master antioxidant. I'll touch on a couple of its other functions towards the end of the talk. But this word antioxidant is used a lot, and so it raises the question, well, what is an antioxidant? And we'll not go too deep, but I'll try and give you a little bit of a flavor for what an antioxidant is actually doing. So you get a little hint from this phrase. It's a free radical scavenger. Well, scavenger, it's going to go around and get things and take them away. And a detoxifying agent is sort of a similar statement there. But one of the consequences of having a good supply of glutathione doing its antioxidant functions is that you reduce oxidative stress. And that's another word that floats around, and you say, okay, well, what really is oxidative stress? So this little teeter-totter gives you some flavor for it. That is, you've got your antioxidants on one side and the free radicals on the other, and I'll say more about what that is in a minute. But you don't want to have too many free radicals, because if you do, you end up with oxidative damage, and that ends up damaging your nucleic acid proteins and your lipids, that's fat, and you end up with tissue injury and inflammation. So we definitely want our antioxidants working. There's this term free radical. That's what we're trying to control. And they are atoms with an unpaired electron. I'm going to show you a picture of that on the next slide. So just let that slide across your brain. But these free radicals, they're like, think of a storm comes and blows down a power line, and the wire snaps, and you've got this hot live wire that's electrically hot, and it's flipping around all over the place, and it's going to, maybe even start a fire, or I don't know, you don't want it electrocuting anybody, but it's really dangerous. And that is what, that's a good image for what these free radicals with the unpaired electron are. They are electric in an uncontrolled fashion. And if they're going around your bloodstream and through your body, they're just hitting cells at random, more or less, and ripping them apart. So you certainly don't want that. You want it under control. So as the free radicals rip the electrons away from other molecules, because they're trying to become stable themselves, they just create more free radicals, which make more free radicals, and that is called oxidative stress. Now, here's the picture I promised you on the left. So we have a free radical, we have a nucleus in the middle, and we have these pairs of electrons spinning around it. And this one in the circle here is not a pair. There's just one electron there, and so it's the live wire. And you have your antioxidant molecule with a whole bunch of electrons, and it donates an electron to the free radical in order to make it stable. And it goes around and keeps donating electrons. So one of the main, glutathione is the biggest antioxidant working in your liver, where you're trying to clean stuff up. But it also is different from the other from other antioxidants in that it can regenerate itself. So after it's donated the electrons that it has to stabilize the free radicals, it then goes back to the liver and fills itself up with some more free radicals and goes back to work again. So it recycles, and it will also boost the ability of vitamin C and vitamin E to prolong their antioxidant activity. Now, another word you hear in this, I don't know if you hear it or not, but it comes up when I'm researching these topics and trying to put together a story for you, is this word called redox, which is different than detox. And it gets a little confusing. So just let me pass it over your head once. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if you really catch it or not. But we just talked about here this antioxidant giving an electron. So you can also create a free radical, if you had a pair, by tearing one away or by putting one back into the antioxidant. So when a molecule, and then there's this word called oxidation, which in my mind is kind of backwards. So it's when an oxidation, what do you think of when you think of an oxidation? You think of the banana turning black. You think of blowing on the fire. So you blew on the campfire and the flame got hotter. So oxidation does some good things, but if it's out of control, again, it can burn the house down. So when a molecule becomes oxidated, it loses electrons. And that will happen to the glutathione, and eventually it will lose all its electrons and become, quote, used up. And when a molecule undergoes reduction, it's going the other direction. That is, it's gaining electrons. And when it gains electrons, they say it's a decrease in the oxidation state. So that's just the fancy chemical way of saying what I said before about it being able to regenerate itself. Now, free radicals, it's not like you can really just go get rid of them. Some of them come from outside and you want to protect yourself from them, like radiation, smoking, UV light that causes cancer, or can cause cancer, as well as give you your good vitamin D. But then free radicals are a normal byproducts of just your normal bodily function. That is, when you're inside your cell, when you're making ATP, that's the body's basic energy package. There's a byproduct. So you make the ATP, and there's stuff that is left over, and that stuff that's left over are free radicals. So we can't live without making free radicals. But we have a system, if it's functioning well, that will cap the live wires and ship them off to the liver for disposal. So I'm just going to run briefly through. I have here 3 ways of categorizing the antioxidants, and I came across an article just before this talk that has half a dozen other categories. But what you need the antioxidants in different forms to be able to detoxify or clean up different kind of molecules. And so they can be enzymes or not enzymes. They can form solutions in water or in fat, and they can be large or small. So with respect to now remember, enzymes are molecules. So if you've got a chemical reaction going, the enzyme's going to be what gives it the little kick to actually go to completion. So they're needed for many, many, many reactions of things that you're trying to make. And again, they're kind of the boost. So examples, so now, the other thing to look at this slide is I've highlighted, there's two forms of glutathione. We have this glutathione peroxidase, where here we have the GSH with the PX on it. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And we have non-enzyme antioxidants, and an example is the glutathione in its other state. So in one form, it's working as an enzyme, in the other, it's not. So these antioxidants that are working like enzymes, they break the free radical down and remove it altogether, not just cap it. So in particular, they take dangerous products and they convert them to hydrogen peroxide. My goodness. So, I mean, we don't want to drink hydrogen peroxide, but here we are making it as part of our cleanup process. But then once it's made the hydrogen peroxide, we then convert it to water. And this is a multi-step process in the presence of cofactors such as copper, zinc, manganese, and iron. And it just, makes you wonder whether the suggestion to use hydrogen peroxide that came up during the COVID epidemic actually, it had to have a grain of truth in it, or it would have, not come up at all. And this particular function could have been part of what got it recommended by some people. So anyway, that's what this glutathione PX does. Whereas glutathione, vitamins C and E, they interrupt the chain reaction. They're the ones that this is the form that's acting as I showed before, which is just capping those lone electrons that are causing trouble. So just to give you example here with water soluble and lipid soluble, the water soluble, now they're going to be working in your cellular fluids like a blood and around your cells. And that's where glutathione is. But you also need to have antioxidants working in your lipids, and that's your vitamin E and your carotenoids and your lipoic acid. And they're going to be working mainly actually in the cell membranes themselves. So you need a variety of these antioxidants. And it's funny, I saw this categorization, and it has glutathione listed up here as a small molecule. And you remember at the beginning of the slide, I said we can't digest it because it's a big molecule. Well, everything's relative. So when we're talking about being a big molecule, that's with respect to being able to digest it. It's too big to get through our digestion system without being broken up. But in terms of molecules that we build, then there are bigger ones. And in particular, the glutathione that deals with the hydrogen peroxide is larger. And I'll just say, we talk about the science and what people can or can't do to get supplements and the LifeWave patches through regulatory processes. And a lot of it boils down to what you can measure and what you can measure, in a cost-effective, reasonable way. So glutathione is measurable in the blood, and at least that means you can get a sample of it by taking a syringe. That's still more, that's not non-invasive. You have to have people that line up that want to do that. It's not as easy as just taking your pH or your temperature, but it can be done. And so what has been determined then is that it will give you a measure of your overall state of health in the context of that teeter-totter I showed you between the free radicals and the antioxidants. So here the GSH is the abbreviation for glutathione again. And when it becomes oxidized or, quotes, used up, they call it GSSG. And so they take a ratio, how much do you have that's out there ready to be used to how much is already used up. And you would like that to be high. When you're young, 90% of it's in the GSH form. And of course, that flips as we get older. And this is then the measurement of like general well-being in this context. Now, I'm going to turn to what we know about the glutathione patches. And I have a list of publications that were done. And we're just going to scan through these quickly. So 2010, there was a study done with patches applied every 12 hours for a string of days from, you can see the graph here goes up to, well, over 15 days. And the patches were put on the acupuncture sites CV6 and CV17. And 6 is down here just under the belly button, and 17 is at the sternum. So they measured these the enzyme levels for the glutathione's forms, and they also measured mercury levels because they wanted to see whether they could show that the patches worked on the metals. So all the subjects had increased blood glutathione, and you can see the graph here as it goes up over time. They only had 9 subjects, so that's too bad because they did not observe an overall effect on the enzymes, and they did not observe an effect on the mercury. But with only 9 subjects and only such a short amount of time, there could be things there that are important. That's the downside of doing a small study. So Halterwalker did a study with 10 patched and 5 controls. He studied them. In order to get into the study, you had to have at least 6 months of pain, and he measured them before and just after patching for 24 hours. So in just 24 hours, the blood glutathione levels increased in all subjects. So, what we have here beginning is this collection of evidence that the patch does what it said it would do. It increases glutathione. And that is well established. We have 1 or 2 more studies where they also verify that blood levels, the increase, and therefore the patch does as advertised. In this study, they had these 5 other sets of equipment on which they measured different things, and we're not going to go into the equipment in this lecture, but it's unless you've heard these lectures before and are being studied research in fields such as the one we're talking about, you would never have heard of these pieces of equipment before. And that's primarily, one reason is because classical medicine deals with measures frequencies that are much stronger. And when we're dealing with subtle energies, you want to be able to measure what's happening at a much lower frequency. And that's what these pieces, so some of these pieces were designed to do that. And at any rate, for all of these measurements in this big study that he did, he found that positive changes in the solar plexus, the lower back, and the human biofield. And that's a different piece of equipment. But what he found is that when the solar plexus in particular was seen to be energetically blocked, it opened up as it was visualized from the red energy being replaced by green and violet energy. So here is one picture. And this is from a machine called a gas discharge visualization. And some people say, oh, isn't that your chakras? And it's not. This is actually gas discharge. What do they mean by gas discharge? They're talking about your skin, and your skin breathes. And so they're talking about carbon dioxide and water. Here's a picture of a leaf, a healthy leaf, and you can see how bright and shiny it is. And if it wasn't healthy, it would look all faded and dead. Now, this particular technique has been poo-pooed in the United States because it works off of the chakra system. You take your hand and you put it on a metal plate, and a gold plate in particular, because it's the most sensitive electrical conductor, and you measure the electrical, you measure the gas that's coming off each of your fingers. And that's what these little pictures over here on the left are. You've got your 5 pictures on each hand, and then these fingers are all linked via the meridian system to different parts of your body. Now, that way of interpreting what's going on seems to be the major problem with the equipment being accepted in the United States, but it has been accepted in at least 20 countries and is used in them. This was developed by a Russian professor at St. Petersburg, professor of physics, and he's still very active. You can find papers by him studying studying the biofield, but studying it from this particular measurement angle. And the other thing I wanted to say is it's the modern form of Kirlian photography, which some of you may have heard of, and is often poo-pooed as not being, Western medicine or something. But it's actually, the Kirlians were actually motivated to develop their predecessor to this by a talk given by Nikola Tesla. So, we're just coming back around to the biofield in the United States, just coming back around to it, not very fast, but coming around to it as a legitimate form of measure of our health. And this use is much further along among physicists and biophysicists than it is among physicians. The one other thing I was going to say, I forgot it. So I guess that's enough. With respect to this particular patch, what's that all got to do with this particular patch? Well, there was a double-blinded randomized study. I know what I was going to say. Double-blind randomized study by Melinda Connor, and she she showed that the patches showed changes over a period of just 1 hour, and particularly in the solar plexus and specifically in the liver, kidney, and nervous system, whereas the control subjects did not show anything. Now, what I have seen, I've not read it yet, but I've seen that Melinda has come out with an actual manuscript on this gas discharge visualization process that is published. And she recently was advanced to the National Academy of Science, the Royal Academy of Science in England. So her work in terms of bringing some of these some of these tools that will measure lower frequency activity, she's going to have a big effect. This is really great. So, and this is where it says the data analysis. What she did, her data analysis, then she used the meridian system, which was how the equipment was defined, but she also then mapped her results directly in the organs to be more acceptable to the United States regulatory system. Okay, there's a study here by Sherry Blake Greenberg and Homer Nazarin. Nazarin was a professor of engineering in Texas, retired, and Sherry is a clinician. Last time I looked, I could find her website, I think in Palos Verdes, California, and she has the equipment, this electro-interstitial scan device. She has one in her office, and for not too much money, you could go in and get a scan. It sounded quite intriguing if I live near her. And so what she did was patch 10 subjects for 12 hours daily and 20 subjects, also 12 hours a day, but only 5 days a week. So they got a 2-hour break, and they went on for 4 weeks. And you have a list of organs that are affected here. And for the ones that were patched daily, there was significant improvement in their electrical conductivity around these organs in everything but the pancreas. And in the second cohort, the intestines are split up. So more doing it actually daily, more of the organs were improved than if you gave it a 2-day break. That's interesting. Okay, so now just a couple of comments before I wind up about what glutathione does besides be an antioxidant. One of it then deals with the immune system, and this is one of the things that the studies were able to confirm, and so it is on the label. So what about the immune system? Well, your body can't make white blood cells without glutathione. You have to have enough of it. And if you don't have glutathione, then your whole immune system, your white blood cells are needed for your immune system to function pretty much at all. And so glutathione has been shown to stimulate also the natural killer cell activity, which is useful in destroying cancer cells. So that's the line of thought with respect to the immune system. Now look over here on the left. It's also known to preserve telomeres at higher levels. And you'll see a slide like this in several of my talks, which show you why that matters. And here is a chromosome, and you have the 2 legs. And when they divide, what this is showing is, you have start out with one cell and it divides and then divides again, divides again, divides again. And each time it divides, you see the telomere is this little black thing on the end. It's the cap. And every time it divides, that cap gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's gone. Well, when it's gone, the cell line is used up. So in the human body, it takes this used up occurs at about 120 years. And that is sort of the target that people doing research in aging are trying to bust through. Because if you look at the aging population, there are more and more people making it to 100 and over 100, but then they're bunching up. We don't see a bunch of people making it over 120. So this is a hot line of research, and glutathione is playing a role in it. Now, the other things that I won't say anything about here are the fact that glutathione is used for building tissues and repair, and this has to do with its support of nitrous oxide, and that would be a whole story of its own for us to investigate. And also it's neuroprotective, and so it's used in managing symptoms of Parkinson's, MS, and Alzheimer's. And then it's critical for inflammation. So with all of those teasers, I am going to tell you that this is a nice, safe, effective alternative to other detox products, and that I wear it a lot, often under my belly. That's kind of my default go-to place, but that I have used it in areas where I've had active detoxification. And so some of you know, and others you don't, that I had a major injury to my head at age 10. I did a flip, landed on my head on the diving board, and it paralyzed me from the waist down for a while, but also knocked this bone, the sphenoid bone, that from which everything else is balanced and held in your head, knocked it out of kilter, and it continued to shift until it was about 30 degrees out of kilter. And that took about 30 years. And then I found some nice alternative therapies like craniosacral therapy and bioenergy work, a number of things you can read about on my website over here. And so I've been healing since that time. But a year ago, I had a really amazing detox experience, and I will show you. So if you look over here on the right, you see a picture of my face, which if I get my face turned, you see this looks like this bruise-like substance. It's like an arrow. So I landed on my head, and then my heart stopped, and I fell off the diving board. And the second time I hit it here, this is the corner of the diving board. And this stuff that was inside my bones in my face, I could see it just kind of come out and go splash like a blob on my face. And it was not only my face that it came out of, but here you can see under my armpit, it looked like I was just really black and blue. But this is just this junk from decades ago coming out of my skin. And it also came out on the comparable parts here that are go to my legs. So it was pretty dramatic. And I was, when you're doing a lot of detox, you are really tired because your body's doing everything it can to process all this garbage. Now, I still have some of these markings on my face because this is oil, lipids, and I've been told you have to sweat it out. So, I mean, cleaning up my image is one thing, but getting it out of my bones was dramatic because before that time, you can move. I couldn't move my jaw both directions. I could move it one way a little and not the other at all. And once all of this stuff got out of my bones, I can actually function my jaw, and it's really nice. So glutathione, I was really using my glutathione during this whole process. Lasted a couple months, maybe 3 months. I know it lasted longer than I kept thinking it'd get over sooner, but it did get over, and I was my functionality in my head and my face and my neck has significantly improved since then. So I was using other patches too, but the detox, getting through the detox process was definitely glutathione to the rescue here. So I have a LifeWave disclaimer. That is, if you have a disease, then go see your doctor. That the glutathione patch is going to help you be well, but not necessarily cure any particular disease. And here's the array of different patches that we have and that we'll be talking about. And with that, I thank you for joining me. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Very nice, Nancy. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody want to ask any questions, or shall I stop the video? Oh, I don't see the video on. I hope it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
on. It's on. It's on. Okay, I'm going to stop it.